Hey guys, welcome to today's session where we're using the rings. We're going to be going through some skill development work. Alright, so point to note here is that stability is the body's ability to resist force. Strength is the ability to produce force. Okay, stability must come before strength. Okay, if your joints aren't in a stable position, your brain is literally going to go, I'm going to hurt myself if I produce too much force, so I'm going to down-regulate force production. Okay, so create stability first, then generate strength. Today, we're using a set of rings, as you can see, double anchor point. Okay, I've got them set low. So the first thing we're going to do is go through some drills here. Okay, each drill that we go through, we have progressions for. If we have each individual movement, each individual skill, then we're allowed to progress to the next skill. Okay, the important thing here is to work within your capabilities. We're looking at shoulder health and function when it comes to using the rings. Okay, very important to allow the scapula or the shoulder blade to move in conjunction with the humerus. All right, very, very important for optimal health and function of the shoulder complex. All right, so let's go through some warm-up drills to get you guys firing, get all the right muscles firing at the right time in the right order whilst producing stability. Let's go. My first exercise here, I'm looking at scapular retractions and depressions using the rings. I'm looking at 3 to 5 reps here. What I want to do is think about pulling my shoulder blades down away from my ears. Rather than thinking about pulling my wrist to my shoulders, I think about pulling my wrist down towards my hips. Posture here, generate tension, squeeze shoulder blades together and down, relax, contract. Think about pulling those shoulder blades down and back, squeeze an egg between your shoulder blades. My next drill is essentially the same thing, but instead of looking at a pulling movement, I'm looking at setting my shoulder blades through a pushing movement. Alright, so I'm going to set myself up in this position. What I'm going to do is think about pushing my shoulders away from my ears. As I push my shoulders away from my ears, I'm going to turn my thumbs out. This creates external rotation of the shoulders. Good position for the scapula. Rotate in, my arms stay straight. Rise up, rotate out. 3 to 5 reps in that position. Very important to note here is that we want to think about squeezing the arms in. Okay, if those arms start getting away from us, then we lose our stability. You're going to do 2 to 3 sets of those 2 drills. Okay, go through your pull movement, then your push movement, then have minute and a half rest, 2 to 3 times through. Next up, we're going through those same drills, but we're increasing the complexity. Before we did a horizontal row, now we're manipulating our scapula through a vertical position or an overhead position. Okay, then we're also increasing the complexity of the isometric dip position. Okay, this time we're going to be in a hanging position. Choose an appropriate variation that's going to allow you to maintain high quality work and good stability. All right, same principles apply here. 2 to 3 sets of 3 to 5 reps. Arms are out in front from here, unrested. Resting position, passive position. Then I want to go active position. Chest through, shoulders back. All the way down, all the way up. As soon as I've done 3 to 5 reps there, then I go into my dip position. Okay, you can jump up if you want, or you can use a step or something like that. I'd recommend that if you're doing this the first time. It is a difficult movement. All right. What I'm looking at here is jumping up. As soon as I get up, my hands come into my hips. Boom, squeeze in, generate tension. You'll see my thumbs rotate out. I'm in this hollow position, generating tension through the entire body. Legs together, point the toes. From here, rotate the thumbs in, my shoulders come up towards my ears. Arms stay straight, then shoulders away from the ears. Rotate the thumbs out. Hollow position. Keep those hands nice and tight. Next up, let's go through skin the cat, which is a foundational gymnastics movement. So we're going from an overhead position. I'm going to drag my knees to my chest. I'm going to kick through so my arms are behind me, and then I'm going to come back through to the start position. Very important here, slow down, okay? It's not a race. This is about maintaining stability, tension, and control. All right, so my rings are set roughly chest height. This is going to allow me to get down into this overhead position where my arms are over my head. From here, I'm going to press off my left leg and then drive my right knee up towards my chest, kick my hips high. I can pause here, or I can continue the movement. I want to move slow here, maintain control. Pause in this bottom position, stretch the chest and the shoulders out, drag the knees into the chest, engage through the shoulders, kick the hips. Alright, you can see how slow I move through that whole process. The goal is to move really slow. Okay, so that is the first option. Then we can progressively make that exercise more and more difficult. Alright. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kick off both legs, drag my knees to my chest, shoulders do the work. I might pause in this position, I might extend the legs, create stability, pause there for 5 to 10 seconds, knees back down to the chest. Then jump back up, continue that movement. Back to the start position. Alright, there's the second option. Third option, I cannot kick off the ground. I can get my shoulders to do the work through that entire process. This is what that's going to look like. Feet come off the ground, shoulders, do the work. Touch, shoulders, do the work. Then I can progressively make that harder and harder and harder by extending my legs. Okay, flattening my back out, like so. Alright, that is a skin the cat, which is the foundation for levers, which is what we're going to move on to next. It's essentially the same thing, but we're not going through that full range of movement. What we want to do here is create tension from the top position, come down so we're parallel to the ground. Then if we can get back up again, we do so. Otherwise, we continue in a negative fashion down towards that start position. Okay, let's have a look at our different levers. So first up, I'm going to work on negatives. I'm going to get to that top position so my legs are straight. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to practice that position. Create that strength and stability and tension there. This is my start position. Now what I'm going to do is drag my knees to my chest and flatten my back out. My shoulder blades do the work. I might just do one rep there. Rest a minute, minute and a half, go again. Just practice that movement. So that is a tuck front lever. Then we can go a semi-tuck front lever, which is where we drive the knees further away from the chest. Then we can go a full lever. Alright, so that's a front lever. Next I'm going to go into a back lever, which is essentially the same thing, but going backwards. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a rest here because this is challenging, it's very tiring. So every one of these gymnastics movements, we want to think about generating tension from the ankles right through to the wrist. Okay, the more muscles we have firing, the more stability we can create for the joints, the more the brain goes in a safe, comfortable position. Let's upregulate force. Alright, let's go through the back lever. It's essentially the same thing. When we get up to that start position, practice that stability. Now, from here, I go into my tuck position. Now, my knees come down towards the ground. Back goes flat. I can go semi-tuck. One option I forgot to give before on the front lever is the semi-advanced position where one leg's straight, one knee's bent. Okay, that's going to be our progression before we go into the full lever. So I'll demo that for the back lever. Come up, one leg straight, one leg bent. Now, if I can get back up there, I will. If I can't, just focus on negatives. Coming down, it took me years and years to be able to learn how to do these correctly with good control. All right, then I'm going into the full back lever, which is same as the front lever. Create tension. Then I can start linking them together. Once we've got our levers down pat, then we can start practicing our muscle ups. So important thing here is that we need to break the muscle up down into its more simple components. So we have a pull up. Okay, you've got to be fucking strong at a pull up before you start doing muscle ups. Likewise with dips. If you're not strong in those positions, in those movements, then if you find yourself in a shitty position using a kipping technique, then you're gonna fuck your shoulders up. All right, so you've got to have the strength first and the stability of the individual components before you then add the skill of the transition going from a pull into a push. Okay, so that's going to allow you to be able to maintain tension and stability and look after your shoulder girdle. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to break this down into my pull. I'm doing 2 to 3 sets of 3 to 5 reps there. Then I'm going to go into my push, which is my dips. Same, 2 to 3 sets, 3 to 5 reps. Once I've got the technique there, then I'm going to practice the skill of the transition going from a pulling position into a pushing position. All right, this is what that's going to look like. First up, false grip. My hands go through here. Okay, normal grip, wrist underneath. False grip, wrist resting on the ring. I'm placing the ring across the meaty part of my palm there. Very important. This allows us to transition from a pull into a push. All right, so false grip here. I'm going to drop back into a rowing position, straight line, row. I want to get my wrists or my chest right through to my fingers and my wrists. I'm going to practice 3 to 5 reps there. Then what I'm going to do is practice 3 to 5 reps of my dip. I want to get my chest right down to my wrist. That's going to allow me to have the strength in that pushing or dip position, bottom of the dip position, which is typically where I'm going to catch after I practice the transition. All right, so once I've practiced the transition, once I've practiced the dips, then I practice the transition. I'm going from the top of the pull-up into the bottom of the dip, like so. I'm going to kick my chest up and over, and back down. Bottom of the pull-up, top of the dip. Bottom of the pull-up, top of the dip. Again, 2 to 3 sets, 3 to 5 reps there. Then what I'm going to do is start putting all of those movements together, which will look like so. Bottom of the pull, top, transition, dip, back down. Pull, transition, dip. All right, important to note here that when I go through that transition, very important to go from this position here where my forearms are below my wrists to this position here where my forearms are above the wrist. Think about the line of the forearm being vertical, okay? Top of the pull, transition, bottom of the push. Then start putting all of that together. Now, once we've got those movements down pat, then we can start adding in some other variations from the top of the dip position. We're looking at tuck sits and L sits and all of the different variations in between them. All right, so what I'm going to do is lock my arms out, grip, screw, boom, thumbs out, creating tension through the shoulders. Then I've got about 80% load through my hands, 20% through my feet. If I feel comfortable here, then drag my knees to my chest, back down. I can either do pulse reps here or I can hold, okay? Whatever's easier or whatever's the best option for you at the time. Next option is my L-sit, okay? Same, lock out through the shoulders, 80%, 20%. If I feel comfortable, take the feet off. Then I'm going to, boom, raise my legs up so they're parallel to the ground. Again, I can do pulse reps or I can lock in, hold that position, all right? Both very difficult exercises. You can also bring those rings down so that they're just above the ground, so that your hands are this far from the ground. That's also a good option for teaching you how to create that strength and stability. I started playing around with the rings many years ago once I got out of the army in 2012. In 2013, I went traveling around the world for about 6 months, and every year after that, up until 2016, I'd go and travel for 3 or 4 months every year. And in my portable gym bag was a set of rings, a skipping rope, and a band. That was it. I could literally do everything that I wanted to train the entire body for those 3 to 4 month trips around the world. Now, when I first set up my rings, I was doing basic stuff with them. I was looking at rows, I was looking at push-ups, I was doing pull-ups, I was doing dips. As time progressed, I started playing around with different skills and started developing different skills. That's when my L-sits, my tuck sits, skin the cats and levers and things like that started coming into play. Then I started working on muscle ups. Then I got to a point where I had the strength, the stability and the skill of each one of these individual components, so I could then start putting them together into a little bit of a flow. So I'll give you a demonstration of what that looks like. Now, the bigger your base, the bigger your foundation, the higher your peak can be. All right, so build a really solid foundation, then start adding different skills and more complexity. Woo! Let's get it.